Okay. All right. So welcome to the University of Toronto Scarborough, the presentation on UTSC at our Unisphere hosted by iAscend. So my name is Brandon. I'm like the CEO and founder of iAscend. And today we have a lot of amazing panelists from UTSC who are willing to take their time out of their, I'm sure, really busy week to help you guys out. So thank you very much to all of you for coming and listening to them. And thank you very much to all the panelists. I'll let you guys all introduce yourself. Why don't we start with Joyce?
Hi, my name is Joyce. I am a second year student and my program is neuroscience specialist with co-op, and I'm doing a minor in psych.
Great. Paula?
Hi, my name is Paula. I'm a second year psych student doing a specialist as well with co-op and a minor in anthropology.
Vanessa?
Hi, I'm Vanessa. I'm doing a specialist in psych with 2 work terms, and I also do photography on the side.
Very cool. And Hira?
Hi, my name is Hira, and I'm a 4th year student. I'm in the Bachelor's of Business Administration program with a specialist in strategic management and marketing, and I'm also doing co-op.
Great. Yeah, so for myself, I actually also go to UTSC. I'm in my second year as well. And I'm doing neuroscience and immunology, double major here at UTSC. So I can answer a little bit of questions, but I'll mostly leave that to our amazing panelists over here. So just to start, why don't we just really quickly talk about your application journey and why you chose to go to UTSC, starting with Hira.
So part of why I chose to go to UTSC in the co-op management program is because being in business and studying it, the importance of like getting real life work experience is really emphasized. So I really wanted to join the co-op program so I could get an idea of actually working in the industry. And I'm in my 4th year now, and I've already worked at 3 incredible companies, both on a global, continent, and provincial scale. And some of the key things that they like to highlight in their application process is a lot of those leadership skills, because in business programs, that's really important. So one of the 2 things that were required were like the very generic, like submitting your application with the major courses. I think those are like calculus and English. And then there was a supplementary application that was kind of like a written style essay, but it was question based, and it was basically basic leadership questions. So tell me about a time where you took a leadership position, or about a time when you faced a problem. And the main emphasis on that is to really highlight how you participate in your community or within your school or in your personal life, and what you do outside of school that really exemplifies your skill outside of just an academic focus.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. Okay, Joyce, why don't you go next?
I also chose my co-op to do co-op because I wanted to get work experience, and neuroscience because honestly, neuroscience sounded cool. And I originally wanted to do a double major in like neuroscience and bio, or maybe psych, but since only the neuroscience specialist had a co-op, I went with that. But so far it's been really interesting. I've really enjoyed all the neuro courses so far, even though they're kind of stressful, but they've been very insightful for everyday life, because you learn about the brain.
All right, Paula, why don't you go next?
So I'm also doing co-op. I think all of us are. The reason I chose it, I wanted to go to a university that had co-op, because in high school I did co-op as well, because I did SHSM in high school. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but I was able to do co-op in high school as well, and I really liked it, especially because it helped me choose what I wanted to study at university. And I knew I really wanted to do research focused stuff, especially either neuro or psych. And I wanted to do also a double major in neuro and psych, but you can only do with co-op a specialist in psych or a specialist in neuro. So I decided to do psych, and then possibly in grad school, I'll expand more on neuro if I decide to do that. For the application process, it wasn't, I think for me, there was no supplementary application. I just needed to submit my grades for the courses that they asked. Overall, just make sure that you check your university requirements and the program that you want, what type of grades they're looking for, and just do your best to get all those classes in your grade 12, and make sure that you're getting all those grades in.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with that. It's like the application process for U of T in general is not really that intensive. I think, especially for science. I think business is a little bit different. But for STEM, it's usually just grades. You may need to answer a couple of questions here and there, but it's not too bad. Vanessa, why don't you introduce your experience at U of T? But also, do you want to talk really quickly touch on like what the difference is between specialist majors and minors? Because I know some people may not know what that's like.
Yeah. So in terms of like when I was doing my application for U of T, there was no like, oh, you have to write an essay or whatever. So you just like submit your grades basically, and that's all you have to, I guess, prove yourself to U of T, which is really hard because then that's basically all you have. And then I also chose UTSC because at the time you don't need bio for psych. I think this year you do need bio starting this year, grade 12 bio, because I am not a bio person. Like I suck at bio, which is why I chose UTSC, because at the time I didn't need the requirement. And then in terms of specialist, major, and minor, specialist, okay, so basically like specialist, major, and minor, like they all have a specific number of courses that you need to take. So specialist is, I think it's like 25 to 30 courses. And then you need like a total of 40 courses, which equals to 20 credits. So each course is usually worth 0.5 credits, basically. And then majors, I think it's around like 10 or 12, depending on like which major you do. And then people usually do 2 majors, 1 specialist, or 1 major, 2 minors. And then minors are basically like 4 credits. So it's usually like 8 courses. So basically like it all depends on what you want to do and what like you're interested in. Like for example, like people do like psych and bio together, or like psych and neuroscience together. But I know like some of my friends are doing a specialist in psych, but then like a minor in, I don't know, like French or music, or like something like that they're actually interested in. Because at the end of the day, like if you're going to use your like the rest of your credits for like music subjects, you might as well just like have the minor for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's talk about business now. So Hira, obviously in a lot of different business programs, a lot of them offer co-op options. Obviously you've heard, I think we've all heard, I mean, all of our participants probably have heard about the rumor that U of T is harder, all these rumors about U of T. Why did you decide to come to UTSC specifically for business co-op, even though there's like other options? And what are your thoughts? Do you regret it? Do you regret it, or do you enjoy it?
So I think like, of course, U of T lives to its name of being harder, but then I only think it also comes more into the limelight is because like the number of students that are at U of T. So like the more students there are, the more you're going to hear, oh, it's a harder university, but that's not to say that like no university is going to be like super easy or super difficult. It's like pretty much will be relatively the same, even in terms of the courses that I'm taking versus the courses that, students in like the AFM program at Waterloo or Schulich or even Rotman Commerce, we're all taking pretty much the same courses with some variation. But when it comes down to like being really hard, it's also a lot of the transition that kind of makes it sound harder. But that's going to come with basically any program that you do straight from grade 12 to first year of university. So like that learning curve is something that like we all need to kind of, talk to people that are older than us and kind of prepare for a little bit. That kind of would make it easier in terms of like being harder and professors being like meaner, or I know a lot of people like say that U of T curves and stuff. For the most part, it's not that true. It just kind of feels that way because, you know, in high school, we're so used to kind of like teachers babying us a little bit. And that's just because, you know, we need that help when we're in high school, but in university and college and post-secondary in general, you're kind of, you know, pushed into the deep end, you know, forced to grow up a little bit and take things in your own hand because you're kind of responsible for where you want to lead yourself. So part of why I ended up choosing UTSC and coming to the co-op program here versus other universities is because it is a smaller program. And so being in classes that have like, you know, less students in it means more focus in terms of the kind of support you can get from teachers, from staff, faculty. Also the community is a little bit smaller, so you get to make closer friend groups and you get to get involved in a different scale a little bit. Another reason that I chose UTSC and like coming here for co-op is because I wanted to join the University of Toronto. So I was like, you know, it's either I could go to like the St. George campus for Rotman, which was also a business program, or come here or go to like Mississauga. And I chose co-op because like it kind of it's still under the U of T umbrella, and you know, I wanted to have access to like all the different resources that U of T students are available to and kind of be a part of that alum network too eventually, because it really does pay off. So even like when I'm seeking for co-op positions, I've recently worked at Flip, I worked at Sun Life, and I worked at Hydro One, and every step of the way, like you meet a lot of the alum network that like really is there to support you. And that's not to say you're not going to get that at any other university, but at U of T it comes at a different scale. In terms of like just the access, it's co-op programs are pretty similar across all the universities. Like every place that I have worked, there has been co-op students from pretty much all of the other universities. So you pretty much are going to end up in the same place regardless of which co-op program you choose. It really just comes down to like, you know, things like looking at location, looking at community, looking at even the kind of courses that are offered, the specializations that are available, and kind of looking at a lot of those things to kind of help you make that decision on where you want to choose to do that business co-op if you do want to do it.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest advantages here, I think you touched on this before, was the fact that the UTSC is a smaller campus. And I think all of us agree that that works out in your favor because, you know, being in St. George or wherever, like another big university, that makes it harder to make friends, to interact with professors and all that stuff. So let's just talk right now about U of T and 3 campuses. So
Can
right
I
now,
say something quickly
yeah, go ahead.
about community? So I saw this chat message from Angela. She said there's a lot of rumors surrounding U of T saying it's hard, the professors are mean, they won't help you, everyone's alone and suffering, there's lots of homework and stress. It is like, I think it depends on how you look at it, because there is not like, no uni is easy. You're going to have to do the work. There sometimes you will have to struggle through something alone, but there are a lot of campus resources. And one thing I really like about UTSC is that it is a smaller campus, so everybody knows everybody, and it really does have that community vibe because you're at the TPASC gym and you see your friends, or you're taking a walk in the valley. And on the subject of professors, I was really worried that they would be really standoffish and like maybe rude, because in high school you hear all your teachers saying, oh, your college professors are going to expect you to know this, they're going to be super mean, they're going to be super strict. But they've actually all been really helpful and they've been really welcoming. A lot of the professors are like, please come to office hours, nobody comes. So they're always willing to help, and they will help you if you need it. And there are definitely a lot of social activities like clubs you can join, or like even online groups in Facebook that you can join, especially for this year. So you definitely won't be alone.
Yeah, completely agree. Yeah. So like the community is probably one of the best parts about UTSC. Even though it is a commuter school, it is a relatively smaller one, so that we meet a lot of people. Like I've seen Vanessa and Joyce along on campus. We're actually, me and Joyce are in the same class this semester.
Yeah.
Paul, I don't think I've seen you or here around. But hopefully we can like later on. But UTSC, UTSG, and UTM, we all get U of T diplomas first of all. So nowhere on your diploma does it say like I went to like Scarborough or wherever. We all get U of T diplomas. But let's say for the student who is interested or choosing between St. George and Scarborough, Paula, do you have anything you'd like to tell them in terms of how they should approach that decision?
Yeah, for sure. So in between, I actually applied to St. George, Mississauga, and Scarborough. I wanted to go to St. George mostly because of the name, because everyone, when they talk about U of T, they think of St. George. So I really wanted to go there basically just because of that. But I was also, how some people have mentioned, scared of the reputation it had. And since I was really like leaning towards doing co-op, I started looking more at Scarborough. And I've never actually taken a course downtown. I'm planning to in the future. I just didn't this semester because of COVID. So I wanted to do it in person instead of online. But as at St. George, since everything is bigger, it's my understanding that the classrooms are all like the class sizes are bigger too. I feel like that might be what makes it more difficult to connect with your professors a bit more. I wouldn't exactly blame it on the fact that it's U of T, but just it's a really big campus. So it's just hard for a professor to make a really good connection with all like 500 or like 600 or 700 of their students in a class. So I really wanted to get more of like that community feel that a lot of people have been mentioning. And I felt that a smaller campus like UTSC would be able to offer that more. And plus it had co-op. So I was just kind of looking at the program, like between both programs at St. George and at Scarborough, and just comparing what type of courses I'd have to take in each one of them, what each one of them could offer me, the benefits of co-op, because co-op does come with an additional cost as well. So would this cost be worth it depending on what I would get for it? So far, I would say it was definitely worth it for me. I haven't done my first work term yet, but right now I'm searching. I'm in my seeking cycle, which means I'm applying to jobs and I'm going on interviews for hopefully the winter semester. And there's a lot of support and there's a lot of help from the whole co-op team and from other students. And basically overall, I think it's been really worth it. I don't regret it at all. I really like my decision of going to U of T and UTSC specifically.
That's awesome to hear.
I also wanted to add a quick point with regards to like the business program. I'm not sure about the sciences, but like if I were to compare the professors at St. George versus Mississauga versus Scarborough campus, literally almost half of my professors rotate between all three campuses. So if you're taking Calc 1 here versus over there or versus like the third campus, it's going to be the same professor. So you're not really getting like a different quality of education, even though like I know people like to speculate that, but for the most part, that's why a lot of our classes are even in like evenings versus mornings, because professors are rotating not only across different campuses, but also across different universities. So like a professor from Western University or York or even Waterloo will maybe even end up at UT Scarborough. So yeah.
Yep. Like I think there's also that stigma with like rotating professors and everything. You brought up a good point. People often think like the peripheral campuses, like Mississauga and Scarborough, are supposedly easier than St. George. But in like from what I've heard and what I've experienced, they're all equally the same. The only thing that would make a course easier is the professor. And so like you mentioned, the professors usually rotate. So they may teach a course in St. George, and then they may come to Mississauga the next year, and then UTSC. And like some courses are harder because of the professor is harder. It's not necessarily the campus. And I think the difficulty in all three campuses are pretty similar. And like in retrospect, do you think, and probably speaking to your friends, Vanessa, do you think UTSC and U of T in general is going to be an academically more demanding institution compared to other universities?
I would say U of T is considered harder because more people like when they apply, they have the grades and they get like the letter of offer basically. But with Waterloo, it's like less people like less people have the offer, so then so like it makes it easier for them when they're actually in the university. So the reason why like like U of T has post basically, is to, I guess, weed out like the people who have the offer from U of T and then they got in, and then in first year they're like, I guess, like not as like, I guess, academically good, I guess, which is why people consider U of T to be harder, because people don't make post and then you get like discouraged and then you have to switch programs. Yeah, which is why post is like something that people stress about, because it's like, oh, I already got in, so why do I have to apply again? Yeah, it does not make sense to me either, but it's just like the way U of T works. Post is basically this, okay, how to explain it? Basically, it's like within first year, you're in like a general program. And you have to take your prerequisites for your program. So for example, for like science or STEM, usually it's like one stats course, psych, bio, chem, physics. Joyce, can you attend to that? Like, I think neuroscience is that. But for psych, it's only the 2 intro psych courses. And then, yeah, you have to take those, and then you apply for post within in April or May, sometimes around that. And then you just have to meet like the GPA cutoff. So for example, for psych, I think it's like 75% in the courses, or you can get like, I think it's like 65%, and then you just need to get 75% in the psych B level course. And then if you don't make the cutoff, you can retake the course, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, that's post basically.
And
Yeah.
if you don't make it, if you apply at like at the end of first year, you can always reapply in the summer or second year. As long as you have a program by the time you graduate, you're good.
Yeah, so just to like reiterate and summarize everything Vanessa and Joy said, it's basically just choosing your program, because there's a misconception that when you come to U of T, you're already in the program, but we're all just waiting. We're all in the general sciences, taking prerequisite courses to get into the program, and we don't choose our program till the end of the first year. And in order to get to the program, you have to meet the requirements, which is different for every single one. And then that's really where you're able to say like, I'm in like neuroscience or psychology, or yeah. Here, is that the same for business, or is that different?
The only difference that would be is there's actually 3 options for business. So in grade 12, you can apply to either a co-op management program, a management program, or something called pre-management. So in co-op management, you're automatically admitted into the co-op management program. So you're going to take all the basic first year management courses, and then you need to maintain a 2.7 plus GPA to stay in the co-op management program. And then you can like apply to your co-ops in your second, third, and fourth year. If you're in the management program, you can either choose to stick in that program, or you can choose to apply to the co-op option at the end of your first year. And what that typically will look like is they're going to look at your first year GPA, if you were involved in extracurriculars, and if you maintained and then if you had like a good academic standing overall, and they're going to do like an in-person interview to admit you into the co-op management program. They typically don't reserve a lot of seats for those, but I've seen, and I know personally, a lot of people that have gotten into co-op after coming in as a basic management student. And then the third option is the pre-management. So if you apply at the end of grade 12 to a management program and you don't get in, then they're going to offer you the option of like being something called pre-management, where what's going to happen is you're going to be taking all the same courses as a co-op management and a management student, but you're not going to be in the BBA program yet. So you're kind of going to be in like an interim program, and depending on if you can like maintain your academic standing and, you know, present your application in a really good way, then they'll do an interview for you, and then you'll have the option of getting admitted into the management program at the end. So like if you don't get in at the end of grade 12, it's not like it's all end, and you know, you still have that option to like try to get in. But let's say even after your first year, you're in pre-management and then you don't make it into management, you get transferred into a BA program, and you can do like a major in economics or basically anything similar to that. It won't be a BBA degree, so like a bachelor's in business administration, specialization, but that doesn't mean like, you know, you're not going to be able to study it. You could still take a lot of those same courses. Your degree will be different.
Yep. Okay. And how is, oh, by the way, how do you think is, while we're on the topic of like business programs, how do you think UTSC like co-op management program compares to Rotman?
In terms of courses, it's pretty much very similar. We're all doing the calculus courses. We're doing the same kind of economics courses. We have pretty much, I want to say, the same caliber of courses. Maybe like marginal differences might be in terms of the specializations. I'm not too sure about that. But regardless of like anything else, the academic overall of it, the only major difference would be is that you end up with a BCom degree if you go to Rotman, and you end up with a BBA when you come to UTSC. And then I know the next question will be, what's the difference between a BCom and a BBA? There really isn't that much of a difference on like an industry level. So like when you go and apply for jobs, there's not going to be too much of a big difference there. But in the BBA program, there's a lot more of a managerial organizational focus, whereas in the BCom, it's very specific on what specialization you're in. So you might not get that holistic approach if you're studying like accounting or finance specifically, whereas in the BBA, you might get that. But like do a little bit, I think I'll link you guys to an article by the UTSC Co-op Management Program that kind of details it a little bit more.
Yeah, thank you so much. And like you mentioned before, a lot of your professors actually are teaching both Rotman and in Scarborough. So yeah, the education is very similar in that regard. There was a question about English. So I think we should address that because U of T, and I think now most universities are planning to take a more holistic approach to student education. So for example, if you enter as a STEM student, they would still like you to pursue courses like maybe one or two in different fields of study, such as natural history, languages, arts, linguistics, things of that nature, just so that we all get a better appreciation of different subjects outside of your focus domain. So in U of T, we have something called breadth requirements. Paula, do you really want to describe what that is?
Yeah, so basically, this took me a while to get a handle of when I applied to UTSC and I was choosing my courses for the first time. But there is, I think it's 5, correct me if I'm wrong, different requirements. So it will be like quantitative reasoning. I think it's like, there's like a history one, linguistics one. There's just different like kind of like sections, and there's specific courses that fall under each section. And it's just to make sure that you don't just graduate going down one single path and only learning things like if you're doing psychology, for example, that you only did courses that are about psychology and you never really learned anything about, at least like took one course in something that's math related or one course that's more like on the historical side. So just make sure that you at least touch base with different subjects. I think a lot of programs, for example, for the specialists in psychology, there's certain courses that are required to take. So for example, you have to take the history of psychology course, and this course falls under the requirement for like historical and philosophy breadth requirement. So it helps like you get the ground covered, but then at the same time, there's going to be a few things missing. I think that there's like an arts and language breadth requirement that the specialist in psychology doesn't cover. So you have to find an elective in that case, something that interests you still, I recommend, but that falls under that just so that you can kind of like cover, how I said before, you can cover that base and you can learn at least a little bit about it. You might end up being super interested in it. That happened with me in anthropology. I took sociocultural anthropology to fill a breadth requirement and I ended up really liking it, and now I'm minoring in anthropology. So I think it's a really good thing. You just need to take one course for each breadth requirement, which is 0.5 credits. So it's neither like you're going to end up having to take like 10 business courses or 10 math courses if you're in a completely unrelated program. It's just take one and maybe you'll end up finding an interest in this.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. And yeah, I completely agree with the fact that you like this definitely opens up our eyes to different types of courses. And just like Paula said, you could potentially find a hidden interest and maybe switch your major to that or have a minor in that. So that's really cool about breadth requirements. And it gives us a better appreciation of everything else that other people are studying as well. So I think U of T is has a lot of misconceptions. There's a lot of like, common like, oh, U of T is like the hardest program or the hardest school, sorry. People at U of T are like, will take your stuff and like hide them and burn them, and they'll like cheat, like they're gonna make sure that they sabotage your work. Joyce, what do you have to say to all of those rumors about U of T?
Um, I've heard a lot about like a lot about Rotman. Sorry, no, not Rotman. Robarts Library, and like things happening there. You'd ask somebody to watch over your stuff, and you come back and find it in the trash or something. I've never seen that happen in the downtown campus. I don't go downtown a lot, but at UTSC, everybody's really super friendly. Like, honestly, I was surprised at how friendly everyone was. They were like, yeah, if you need any help, let me know. If you don't understand things about course selections or like where to find certain things, everybody's super helpful. So don't worry about it.
Yeah, exactly. Just look at all these people here. Like they're taking the time out of like in the middle of midterms to help you guys out. So yeah, everyone at UTSC is really, really friendly, and I think the majority of people in other schools as well. I think before we head into the Q&A session, because I see a lot of questions, like I guess more specific questions, let's talk about what you would like any advice you would give to any students applying to UTSC. So as you know, the application process may not be that demanding for specific programs, but it is still a stressful time for all of them, as it was for all of us when we were back in grade 12. So what do you think, maybe like two pieces of advice that you would like to give them, or maybe give your old self? Why don't we start with Vanessa?
I would say to myself to not worry about like my grades too much, because I remember, I mean, I took the same calc class as Joyce back in high school, but we were struggling in calc. Like we were sitting in the back and we were like, what's going on? And then yeah, we like both got 70s in that. Anyways, it's fine. So like at the time I was like really stressed about it, because I thought that like, oh my god, like calculus and functions, like pretty much everyone talks about it, especially in terms of like the math courses that you need for high school. I mean, sorry, for university, but at the end of the day, it's the average of your, I think it's like top 6, right? Top 6 high school courses. So just like try your best. Like I think is the biggest piece of advice I would give myself. I mean, personally, I wasn't really stressed about like my university application, just because um, like because I knew that U of T had posts. So even if I got like some other offer, I could use posts to get into the program I actually wanted, which is why I guess there was like less stress on me. And then in terms of psych, if it's not too late for you to decide, I would definitely take data management. I sucked at calc, but I did good in data management, and stats is one of the courses that you need to take for, I think, science and psych.
Okay, thank you so much, Vanessa. Hira, why don't we go to you? Like your two pieces of advice you would give someone.
Two pieces of advice. Don't worry about like, I want to get in my top program. And if like, let's say you don't get into it, because like, if you continue to work hard and, maintain those like minimum grade requirements that are needed to get into those programs, and you really let your tenacity and passion for basically what you want to apply to show through, then I can guarantee you that it will work out for you. In grade 12, I was the person who was like, not the most academically smart person. So I was never the 95 plus student, like I was always trying to just maintain like those minimums. And I guess for some programs like the BBA co-op program, it was like a 90. And so like kind of maintaining what's required and then letting your passion and tenacity show through your applications will really help you go a long way. Because in business, like we all know that, you really have to focus on your communication, both verbal and written. And if you let that show through, then like people will see that, your you're passionate about it, and those opportunities will open up for you. So don't worry about it too much and stress about getting into those things, because they're going to lead to next things. It'll work out for you if you like keep pushing forward and not giving up into kind of what you really want to do. And in terms of the application itself, you don't have to do like 10 different extracurriculars to like really show your leadership experiences. Maybe do one or two things. They don't have to be all business clubs either. It can be anything. It could be, doing your own music program or running your social media pages, like a business social media page or anything. It could be literally anything that shows your skill set, both like on a technical skill and on a interpersonal skills as well. So really hone in on those, and make sure that you know how to communicate your skills on a verbal and on a written basis, because those are going to go a long way for the business program.
And it's always better for like when you're talking about your experiences to be in fewer experiences and have a bigger impact in those areas, rather than having like spreading yourself thin and just being like a general member, or like having like an entry level position, right? It's always better to be a leadership, like have a leadership role in those opportunities or experiences.
Quality over quantity for sure.
Mhm. Okay. So I think there's advice for personal statements. I think we can get to that in our Q&A, but there's a quick question we can answer here. Do we need to provide proof for our leadership involvement for the supplementary app? I think Kira, you'd probably be in the best position to answer this if you're a member.
Proof, you don't need to show like something signed by your teachers, but in some cases, I can't remember the top of my head and I don't remember which university this was for, but for some business programs, they might ask you for like a contact email or phone number of like a staff advisor or someone that's in a leadership position in your extracurricular involvements. So like make sure you're not like BSing, because they will see through that. You'll be surprised, they do.
Okay, just stay honest and you'll be perfectly fine. So I think before we go into Q&A session, Joyce and Paula, I'm going to ask you, like, what are two things that people can look forward to after coming to UTSC? I'll start with Paula.
For sure. I'd say one of them is, honestly, I feel like people kind of, I don't want to swear, people say bad things about the campus, about UTSC. I've heard like bad comments about it. I honestly really like the campus. Right now we can't go on it, but there's a really nice trail behind the campus that I love walking on and going jogs on. And there's like benches along it where you can sit down and study. And personally, for me, I love that, and I really look forward to that, especially when it was like fall time. I can just go out in my sweater and I could just look at the leaves. It was really nice. I love the nature aspect of the campus. I feel like that's another thing that made me want to choose UTSC over St. George, that I really like nature. So I really like that part. Also, I feel like, contrary to what a lot of people say, I've built like some good connections with professors and even like TAs and everything at UTSC. The difference between university and high school is you can't expect the teacher to be the one that's pushing for that relationship with you. They're not going to be the ones that are going to be constantly approaching you or trying to build something with you. You have to go to their office hours. You have to email them, participate in class, and you have to be the one kind of initiating it. And they'll see that you really care about the course and that you're actually putting effort in it, and you can build a relationship with them. And it's just really interesting because you can ask them about their research, and they'll just really, like, some professors will just like go off about what they're researching and just the stuff that they like. And it's super interesting. And it's just like a great opportunity to learn, maybe get a feel for what you want to do in the future. And yeah.
Great. Thank you so much. Joyce, why don't you go next?
Okay, so my first piece of advice would be don't be afraid to reach out, because especially this year, I feel like virtually reaching out, it could be easier, could be harder, depends on like what you're comfortable with. But there's definitely a lot of good campus resources out there, like for A and CC. We have academic counseling. It's like kind of like your guidance office at high school. We have a health and wellness center, and even like not just school official resources. We also have a bunch of student resources like virtual clubs right now, or just Facebook group chats, a lot of student-led resources. So That's been really helpful. And my second piece of advice would be not to be discouraged when you don't do so well in university compared to high school, because it's definitely a big jump. And right now they're taking, because university is obviously more selective than high school. So when you take a bunch of selected people from certain high schools and then you lump them all together, they might have all been like, you might have gotten all 90s in your high school, but then in universities, your averages could be a 70 or like, it's different with every school, every university, but just don't be too discouraged if your marks go down. Like obviously, I know you all are going to do the best you can, but just keep pushing forward if you find a mark gets you down, because it's okay. It happens to us all, and you just need to keep going, keep learning. Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much. And yeah, absolutely. Like the marks thing is such a big thing in university, especially in U of T. I think the U of T's course average is around like 60 to 65%, the course median. So expect like a significant drop. And the people who actually are in those courses are like probably like 80%, 90% students from high school. And so it's gonna be a big drop, but that doesn't mean that uh, that's going to be your grade. Like I see people do exceedingly well just because they put in the effort. And I feel like if you just put in the effort and if you don't know something, you ask for help, then you'll be perfectly fine. You'll be able to be successful in your studies. So yeah, and evaluations. I think before we go into Q&A, I think that's something that people might want to address. So evaluations, we have like midterms and final exams. And then exam weightings that, just like Vanessa said, it can go a lot, like it can be very heavy. Like there's some courses that are like 45% midterm, 55% final, like it was like a bio course in the summer. Sometimes it's like 30% midterm, like 40% final. But it's going to be heavily reliant on the like evaluations. Is that the same thing for business, Hira, or do you have more projects and assignments?
You have a balance. It's pretty much like any other program. You have a range between a midterm, a final. We focus a lot on case studies. So like your typical project, quizzes, tests, it's pretty much the same. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's definitely a lot of pressure, but the good thing is you have so much time to study. So think of it like that, like you only have one thing. It's a lot of pressure, but you're basically you don't have to spend your time doing assignments if you have like that big midterm. So yeah, all right. So let's just jump into Q&As. I think one question that a lot of people will want to know is curving. So Paula, do you want to talk about curving? What is like the bell curve, and does that happen at U of T?
Sure. So for some exams, I'll say the first course, like not the first course I took, but like my first semester at UTSC, I was in PsyB 57 and PsyB 55, which are like cognitive psych courses. So they
I was in that too.
yeah, I don't, were we in it together? I don't.
For the summer, right?
I think like I recognize your name like from one of the chats. So I feel like we were in a course.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, with Souza, right?
Yeah, with Susan.
Yeah.
So the course, like the first midterm, it kind of came as a shock to me because the average was like in the 50s. I got very scared, but he kind of, like you said, he bell curved. So he moved everyone's grade. He kind of just, it all kind of shifted over so that everyone would land. I think the average ended up being a 65, how you mentioned before. It came kind of as a shock to me because that happened for all the exams I took with him. He ended up bell curving it the same way. So I got really scared about that because I felt that then all the rumors were true, that all your professors are just going to be trying to aim for the same average the whole time. I asked him about it actually, and he told me, he was just like, no, it just happened to be that way. He's like, I just formatted the exam and it came out to be like too difficult. And they're nice about it. They're understanding. If it comes out and the average is really low, they'll understand that and they'll say like, sorry, like I'll bell curve it a bit, because rather they made mistakes on the exams, because sometimes a professor, don't let that scare you too, because you'll be writing an exam and there'll be like a sentence that is completely ambiguous and you have no idea what they're asking, and it really throws you off. And I remember I would get really scared when that happened to me. But if you bring it to the professor's attention, they'll like take that question out of the exam afterwards, and that will help again with like the curving of the grades. The professors, I've never gotten the feeling that they want you to fail or they want you to do bad. I've never gotten that feeling from any of my professors. I know a lot of people think that about U of T, but I've honestly, I've never taken a course at another campus, so I can't like speak to that. But at least at UTSC, I've never gotten that feeling. That has happened in some courses when the professors, like I feel like the exam grades is really low, and how I said it kind of just bumps up after. But then I've also had other courses where the like average ended up for an exam ended up being like 80 or 85, and the professor's just like, wow, that was really good, and they just leave it. They won't bell curve you down. They won't bring everyone's marks down. That hasn't happened to me, at least. I don't know if it's happened to one of you guys, but for me, I've never experienced that they'll purposely bring your grades down. I know that possibly if everyone did score a really high average on an exam, the next exam will probably be a little bit more difficult, because well, like the objective of the course isn't for everyone to come out with an A doing minimum effort. So they want it to be a bit of a challenge at least, but they're not trying to kill you with work or trying to make you fail. If you keep working hard and you study and you just do your best, you'll do okay, and at least you'll learn a lot from it. Just if there's anything you're kind of confused about, just I recommend just talking to your TA, talk to your professor. If you're really worried about your grade, approach your professor about it and tell them. Maybe don't just like never talk to them throughout the whole semester, and then at the very end, if you have a low grade, just be like, hey, can you bump up my grade a bit? Because like that, understandably, they're going to say no, and that's going to bother them. But if you've been constantly in communication with your TAs and professors, showing that you want to do good work, and then you ask them and you're like, hey, I'm struggling a lot, they're probably not going to just bump up your grade for no reason, but they might like give you an opportunity to like, they might give you bonus assignments for the whole class, or they'll just do something to help you, or they'll give you extra office hours so that you can improve your understanding of the course content a little bit more. But if you're in constant communication with your professors, I'm sure you'll do fine. They'll make sure they're not mean. they want you to succeed. Everyone wants you to succeed. No one's going to be dragging you down on purpose.
Yes, in conclusion, professors aren't mean at all and they want to help. Yeah. Okay. So GPA, I think that probably will come up if it hasn't already.
That being said earlier, on like learning curves, some professors are helpful and they do curve you, but other professors just kind of leave it. So I don't want to scare anybody who's taking sciences, but our first chem midterm, our professor was like, hey, everybody did like first bio midterm, they were like, oh, everybody did really well. And we're all like, oh, okay, we all did really well, like 80s, 70s maybe. But they're like, oh, you all ended up with there was a class average of 65. And we're like, oh, okay. And then on our chem midterm, there was an average of like 52 or something. So, and the thing is that sometimes professors don't bell curve, so don't rely on it, I guess. Some are nice enough to, but some don't at all. So, but you can do it if you study hard.
Yeah, just study hard and like just do your best. Some questions are gonna be like, sometimes they even put questions that are impossible to solve as like means of making sure that you're not cheating. They do that now more in like an online setting. So that's always fun. But yeah, just study hard, you don't have to worry about it. Like if you put in the work, you won't be below the average. So nothing to worry about, honestly. So the GPA stuff, yeah, Vanessa, do you want to really quickly explain how that works?
Yeah. So I think people get scared of the percentage of your grade dropping from high school to university. Is because the GPA system is different. So basically, if you get 85% or higher, you get, I guess, like full marks. So like a 4.0 GPA basically. So it doesn't matter if you get like 85 or like 99, you still end up with like the same GPA score basically. And I guess that's why like people get scared by the drop, is because like, for example, like 60s in university would equate to like 75s if like 75s in high school if you were to like think about like the difference in the grading scheme. Yeah.
Yeah, and also like in GPA, something that I actually learned that was like a big shock to me. If you go on like U of T and Google like U of T GPA, you go from like an 85, which is like 4.0 to, and then and a 3.7 is the next one, which is at 80. So I'm like, okay, so if it's a 4.0 is 85 and a 3.7 is an 80, so that means a 3.8 is probably like a 30, like an 83.7 or something. And I'm like, but then in reality, that's not the case. It's like if you get an 80, 81, 82, 83, or 84, it's just a 3.7. So there's been multiple cases where, like study really hard, you get like an 84, and then it's like you're 1% away and your GPA goes from a 3.7, like from a 4.0 to a 3.7. And that really that hurts a lot. But yeah, like that's something that that is a misconception about the entire GPA. And I think that's the case for all universities. Okay, so we have this is a big question. Oh yeah, never mind. That's an answer. Okay, so I think, is there any like additional questions? So when we're applying now, do we need to know what we're specializing? Nope, yeah, we don't.
Yeah, sorry. Someone really wanted to know about, I think, like the psych program, like 2 or 3 people.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I would say it's like more similar to like the neuroscience or like the bio programs, in terms of like you're taking the same general courses in first year, and then in second and third year you get to more specific things. So for example, with like the neuroscience, you'll take like something neuroscience courses, and then with psych you'll take like social psych or like cognitive psych, etc. I guess my opinions is, I mean, I like the professors a lot. I think they're really good at teaching. I mean, compared to my experience with other professors, it's very good. Like I know I took both management courses, like the intro management courses, with Chris, and then I forgot his name, but it was like the brown dude, like the brown prof. Yeah, Chris was horrible. I don't know what was going on. And then the brown dude, I don't know what was going on either. They pretty much just read off slides. But with psych, I mean, I liked it just because like the profs give like they don't just read off slides. Like they teach the content, and they give you like the resources that you need to like understand it, as compared to just saying like, oh, this is this. They say like, oh, this is this because of this, and then here's an example, so you can like relate to it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I think we're going to answer Josian's questions first, and then we're going to go back to Raifa. U of T programs that are good. I think everything. I think a STEM is really good. Business is really good. At UTSC, they're really big on environmental science and astrophysics, and like ecology, like that type. Obviously, downtown is more like medicals because hospitals are right beside it. So, and U of T is really big on research as well. So, whether that be like business, there's even business research, which is pretty cool. Like psychology, there's a lot of research going on at UTSC. UTSC is also really good for psych. And then everything else, like there's research going on everywhere all the time. And for the AP program, Paula, go ahead.
Okay, so I did AP in high school. I mentioned that in my first year, I took the courses I mentioned that I took in my first year were B-level courses for psych. I did take the AP exam for biology, for and for psychology. And I did get the credits for both of them, and also for Spanish. But the Spanish exam I took didn't count for UFT. You have to check on the UFT website. It tells you which exams they accept, which transfer credits they accept, and which ones they don't. They did accept my psychology one, but it only counted as 1 credit, but it does exclude you. So I wasn't allowed taking the intro psych courses, but the intro psych courses are 2 classes. And since the AP exam was only 1 class, the only thing I had to do was just take an extra B-level course on top of my program requirements to fill in that extra gap. When I went in, it kind of, I would say for me, it was a good thing because I technically skipped a lot of stuff that you usually do in your first year because I didn't have to take any of the intro courses. I went straight into the 2nd year level courses, which was really interesting for me because I kind of just got more into the in-depth stuff right away. The only issue with this is how we were mentioning before that you apply to post at the end of your first year. So I was already like deep into psych courses. So if I hadn't gotten into my post, or if I ended up changing my mind about what program, that would have been a bit of an issue for me because I wasn't in intro courses, which is what people usually do, which is more general. So you have more of like leeway with what program you choose. I didn't really have that, but it was okay for me because for me personally, I was really sure that I wanted to do psych or at least neuroscience. So the courses I took were kind of into both of those things, which was good. I will say for the AP exam, this really stressed me out at the end of high school. So if you did do your AP exams and you're waiting for it to arrive to the University of Toronto, it might take a while. It took mine. It almost went like right until the deadline when the university is supposed to email you and let you know that they got your scores. I almost reached right at the deadline and UFT hadn't answered. I ended up emailing like the admissions office, asking them if they had gotten it or not, because then like I would have had to change a whole bunch of stuff, but they ended up getting it. It was just really delayed. So don't stress about that. They do get it. In general, I say, even if you don't take the AP exams, I don't know if you're just referring to the AP program or if the AP exams precisely, if you just take the courses and not the exams, or you don't pass the exams with the grade, because UFT requires a 4 or 5 for it to count. If you didn't get a 4 or 5, just taking the courses really helped as well. Even I didn't take first year bio or anything like that, but since I took AP bio, the amount it just helped me understand my psych courses so much more because I had a strong bio basis. And just in the courses, sometimes they'll go more into the bio side. There's just certain courses in psych that will just fall a little bit more into bio. And I feel like some people kind of struggle with that because they either didn't take high school bio, but I think that's changing now that it's going to be a requirement. But some people just lack a bit in that section, and taking AP just really, it helps prepare you not only for what type of exams you have to take, but how to study, and just, it gives you a stronger foundation, I think. So if you're an AP, I think that's good.
Mhm. Thank you so much for clearing that up. Hopefully everything that was very in-depth. So I think that should probably answer your question. Last one that Josiane was asking was percentage of people who fail courses in first year. That's hard to say. It really depends on the course. Like, I don't know, Joyce, I think our first chemistry course that like 25% people failed or something.
I'm not sure how the exact percent because I don't think the exact percentage is released anywhere, but there was a bunch of people who didn't pass because of the midterms or not passing, because you have to pass a certain number of midterms or do a certain, like in every, so a chemistry course has like your midterms, your exams, and your lab courses. Even if you, like, let's say you ace your midterm and you ace your exam, you still have to do well in the lab portion. So there's a certain minimum grade you have to get for each portion in order to pass the class.
Okay, so how many hours do we study? A lot. I think we all study a lot. I think everyone spends the majority of their day studying. It's hard not to do it. It's hard to do anything else, honestly, especially now during like exam seasons. Okay, so we have double majoring. How does that work? I think it's basically just choosing courses. Like you can just search up like major at U of T, like whatever major at U of T. There's going to be a list of courses you need to meet those credits. You take all those courses that you need to take. And then if you have space, then you add on another major. And sometimes they overlap, sometimes courses overlap. And if you graduate, you still get, if you get like if you major in like biology, then you get like a Bachelor of Science, honors Bachelor of Science. And then if you like, I think if you double major and get like a business, then you get a honors Bachelor of Science and a BBA, right?
You actually can't. I checked because I actually wanted to do a major in business, but for UTSC, at least for now, there's no major programs in business. You can only specialize. But someone was talking about health studies earlier, and there are two health studies programs. One is for health populations, population health, and arts policy. Sorry, health policy, but it's under a BA, and population health is under BSc. If you take both, at the end you'll have to choose if you want a BSc or a BA, but you can't have both.
Okay, thanks for clearing that.
Actually, right now, there's actually a new program that came. It's called a double degree BBA/BSc program. So what that basically will be is a double degree in management and finance and statistics and quantitative finance stream. So it's kind of a hybrid. It's the double degree program. It just came out, I think, about a year ago. So that is an option now. I will link like a link about it. So if you guys are interested, check it out.
Is that the only, that's the only one, right? Or that?
I think there are two. I can't remember the top of my head.
All right, while you're speaking that up, there was one question about mental health outside of schoolwork and like balancing all that. Vanessa, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. Yeah, I think especially now it's like so hard. Because back when things were in person, I would go like every day to school. And then I would like hang out with friends, which is in a way, I guess, like facilitating your mental health, like making it better because you're like talking with others, and you're talking with your friends and you're joking around or whatever, or like you're working together in a school environment, right? But now everything is online, and I find myself that I have both like on and off days. So for example, with things being online, I put a weekly schedule together. So for example, because there's like 5 courses per semester, but that's just what I'm taking. I do it like 1 course per day, basically. But what I found is that like if I feel like shitty because of, I don't know, the mood or whatever, or like the weather, then like I'll just relax. And that's like not a big deal. Like I don't like beat myself up over it. And I think that's really important, especially now, is to like listen to your body, and listen to like your mental health and what like you think you need, and not to like push yourself too much.
Yeah, it's very important to do that. And also like if you're not feeling the need to study, or if you're not like, if you know you're sitting at your desk and trying to get all this information in and nothing's going in, just don't keep going. Just go out on a walk or something, take a break, because you're just going to stress yourself out even more, and that just has like a compounding effect, and doesn't look good for like anyone, and we all go through it. I think like burnout is something that is a result of that. So just making sure you really prioritize your health and like your mental health specifically, and just realize like, we're all students, and we're all students in a pandemic currently. So it's not like it's like the easiest road for anyone. So don't be like too hard on yourself. Make sure, allow yourself to fail, because everyone does, and it's not a bad thing. Yeah. Okay. Let's just finish up really quickly. We have post, just to recap post. I think post is it's basically at the end of the year, end of your first year, you basically have to choose a program. That's really when we all go from undeclared to actually being in the program. And when we get into the program, we have access to these specific courses directly related to the program. And so in order to do that, you would have to meet your GPA requirement, and that's it. So we do all these first year general courses that a lot of us take, and then we apply to post at the end of our first year. Hopefully that helps. I think there's more information about that later. Like you can Google information about that, but that's all going to be after your first year. So this won't really influence your application going into your first year. It's more after going into your second year. Early admissions, will that benefit from my AP exams, Paula?
Yes, it does. Your exam marks won't go in until like July of the summer.
Mhm. Okay, is there any final questions? So life science, there is no supplementary. I don't think there is. No, it's just your marks. Yeah, but if obviously scholarships will contribute, and that's like a supplemental applications that you'd have to fill out. Okay. Is there anything else that we need to cover? Yep. Again, I think we're gonna, if all you guys are comfortable leaving your social media, I think everyone here is very super friendly and open to questions. So feel free to drop that and below, and you can message them. I think, and yeah, like I think we covered a lot of the big topics about UTSC. So thank you to everyone who sent questions in, and thank you very much to all the panelists. I'm gonna stop recording actually. I'll just wait for messages to be sent in. But if there's any last questions that you want to really quickly ask, you can contact either one, Yanuli. I think if you have questions for like neuroscience or like life sciences, then you can ask like myself or Joyce. Vanessa and Paula are psychology, and Hira's for business. Yeah. So feel free to just reach out. Okay. All right. Any last question? Okay. Okay, I'm gonna stop recording.